Join me in the prayer for illumination. Lord, our souls wait for you. In your words we find hope. Open our hearts to embrace your love. Open our minds to receive your teaching. Open our hands to accept the task you set before us, to live together as your children and love each other as Christ loves us. Amen. A reading from the Hebrew Scriptures. Hear the word of the Lord. The Lord your God will raise you up, for you a prophet like me, from among your own people. You shall heed such a prophet. This is what you requested of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, if I hear the voice of the Lord my God any more, or ever again see the great fire, I will die. Then the Lord replied to me, they are right in what they have said. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their own people. I will put my words in the mouth of the prophet, who will speak to them everything that I command. Anyone who does not heed the words that the prophet shall speak in my name, I myself will hold accountable. But any prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, or who presumes to speak in my name a word that I have not commanded the prophet to speak, that prophet shall die. The word of the Lord. Amen.
In this room this day. They, Jesus and the disciples, went to Capernaum. And when the Sabbath came, he, Jesus, entered the synagogue and taught. They were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Just then there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent and come out of him." And the unclean spirit, convulsing him and crying with a loud voice, came out of him. They were all amazed, and they kept on asking one another, "What is this? A new teaching with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." At once his fame began to spread throughout the surrounding region of Galilee. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Who is the head of the church? I was sitting in front of the mission committee of Westminster Presbyterian Church in Minneapolis, being interrogated as to my readiness to come under their care while seeking to become an ordained minister of Word and Sacrament in the Presbyterian Church USA. I was a very recent convert to the Presbyterians, having been baptized Methodist and confirmed Lutheran, and to be honest, it seemed too easy and a bit of a trick question. Who is the head of the church? This particular congregation had a senior pastor named Don Meisel, who was clearly in charge, the primary preacher, the head of the staff, and the one who gave shape to their vision and leadership to make sure it was carried out. Then again, I wasn't such a new Presbyterian that I didn't know the governing board of the congregation was the session, the elders, the decision-making body for the church, and that at least according to ecclesiastical rules, the Book of Order, they also collectively had a claim to the title of head of the church. Then, of course, there were all the unofficial, self-proclaimed heads of the church. The biggest financial givers, people whose last names adorn the entrances to meeting rooms, parlors, and libraries, the members who had been there the longest, whose families went back to the congregation's founding, those with the boldest and crankiest and the loudest voices, the ones in the parking lot, in the hallways, on the phone, creating and disseminating opinion. Who is the head of the church? I thought about all these potential answers and then said, Jesus Christ. Phew. It was the correct answer, and I had passed for now. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus entered the synagogue and taught. The people there were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. Just then there was in their synagogue, a man with an unclean spirit. How did someone with an unclean spirit get into their synagogue? Where were the ushers? Didn't they have rules about this kind of thing? Who was welcome and who wasn't in their synagogue? Anyway, he cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth?" Jesus was in their synagogue, teaching them, with one having authority, not like the scribes, and they were astounded and probably, as in other similar accounts in the gospel, more than a little irritated and angry, even fearful. Have you come to destroy us? Didn't he know who he was teaching to, talking to? The leaders, official and unofficial, of their synagogue? Who did he think he was? The Holy One of God? And the same is still true today, this day. If we are to be honest with ourselves, Jesus is a threat to who we are and, more importantly, how we are as the church. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? How many times have I heard someone say, have each of us perhaps been the one saying it, that if Jesus were around today, physically present, he would look at his church, his body in the world, and be sad, confused, and more than just a little bit angry. We know who it is that we are called to be together. The love and mercy, grace and forgiveness we are to embody and share with all our brothers and sisters, especially the poor, the lonely, the left out, the ignored and the forgotten, our enemies, to bring healing to this divine gift of life as we work to create, construct, and reveal God's promises in our midst. We know these things, and yet too often the history, tradition, and bureaucracy of the church get in the way and become our excuse for not following Jesus, for not loving God, worshiping God, joyfully serving God, overflowing with gratitude for God's abundant generosity, and for not loving one another as God loves each and every one of us. We know who he is, the Holy One of God. Last month, in response to the imagined war on Christmas, I saw a sign that read, instead of putting Christ back in Christmas, how about we put Christ back in Christianity? Who is the head of the church? What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? In the middle of the masterpiece, The Brothers Karamazov, Fyodor Dostoevsky inserts a story, a parable, into the mouth of one of the brothers, Ivan, entitled The Grand Inquisitor. In it, he tells of a time during the Spanish Inquisition when out of nowhere, Jesus appears and is immediately rushed off to jail before he can cause too much harm. That night, the Grand Inquisitor himself comes to the cell where he is being kept and begins to question Jesus as to why he has arrived at this time. Just like the man with the unclean spirit, he asks, why have you come to get in our way now? And then, so you think I don't know who I'm talking to? He informs Jesus on a number of different levels of the suffering his life and hard teachings have caused humanity, and that it has taken the church hundreds of years to correct his work and to convince the people otherwise. The church will not allow Jesus to just show up now and throw all their hard work down the drain. Jesus is to be executed the next morning. People don't want freedom. They want certainty, he says to Jesus. And behold, instead of giving a firm foundation for setting the conscience of man at rest forever, thou didst choose all that is exceptional, vague, and puzzling. Not all that is reasonable, practical, comfortable, and safe. Not all that conforms to the rules and models, the institutions we have allowed to be created that give divine authority to those in positions of power and privilege, and threaten those who would challenge them with the fear of punishment, including eternal damnation. But all that is exceptional, vague, and puzzling. Jesus comes to set us free. Free from those ideologies, our politics and theologies and institutions, including the church, that demand our allegiance in the place of our freedom before the one who is our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, the source of our life and the merciful giver of new life, abundant life, eternal life, free from those habits and tightly held personal opinions, for that is all they are, personal opinions. Free from our perceived positions of power and privilege, from our shame and our fears, free from all that keeps us from confessing our need of God's mercy and forgiveness, that we are not perfect, that we may even be wrong, that we don't have all the answers or know the mind or the will of God, that we are nothing but dead branches apart from the life-giving vine of God, that all we have and all we are is a gift from the one who is love and goodness. What has Jesus to do with us? Perhaps he has come to destroy us, destroy our version of Christianity, our church, our congregation, to destroy the idea of faith as the intellectual acceptance of specific doctrinal beliefs and our allegiance to the human constructed traditions of the institutional church, instead of faith as our absolute and ultimate trust in the goodness, grace, and infinite love of God. In the place of the complex, the confusing, the exceptional, the vague, and the puzzling, humanity will always turn to that which seems to offer the best, at least short-term, results. We will have effectively denied Jesus and the paradoxical nature of the cross, in which we find a new pattern of loss that brings gain, willing sacrifice that yields abundance, and self-forgetfulness that creates a space for the remembering God. Are we ready to turn over our comfort and certainty for Jesus' call to a dangerous and astonishing discipleship? Are we ready to hear and follow Jesus' challenge to our power and privilege, Jesus' demand to care for the least of these, our brethren, and to love our enemies? What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Jesus calls us out of our old ways of living, our current ways of living, our old life, and offers us, promises us, new life. Have you come to destroy us? I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Following the service of worship, we will gather together as the people of God, the body of Jesus Christ, for the annual meeting of this congregation. Among the regular pieces of the meeting, as part of the presentation of our 2018 budget, we will also present the 9 people voted on by the session who have agreed to be part of a task force to look at the short and long-range future of this congregation. Not only financially, because hopefully the fullness of our life together is a little more interdependent than just a solution to our financial sustainability, but one that addresses in all its breadth and complexity who we are and what it is that Jesus would have do with us. This will require all of our faithful and honest participation, not just these 9 people. It is my hope that their primary task will be listening to you and to me, listening as much as it is possible to those who aren't here and those who were once here but aren't any longer. Listening to those people for whom this community of faith is foundational to their life, and to those people who may have more complaints and criticisms than we really want to hear. Those people with all sorts of questions, and those people with some real constructive ideas regarding the very real challenges we face. It is also my hope that guiding their conversations, discussions, and eventual recommendations will be the question, what have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? And maybe even the more difficult question, have you come to destroy us? This is an incredible opportunity for us to look at ourselves and the world with whom we are called to share the good news of Jesus of Nazareth, and decide where and how it is that we are being faithful in our discipleship, and where and how we are clinging to old ideas and ways of doing things that have absolutely nothing to do with the Holy One of God. So how therefore shall we live, if not in safety and security, comfortable and in absolute certainty? If not putting our own needs for attention and admiration, our need to be right and our sense of authority recognized, our fears and selfishness, our self-preservation ahead of our faithful discipleship to the one who teaches with an authority that astounds us, the one who offers the exceptional, the vague, and the puzzling, who challenges us and promises us new life, who calls us to be his resurrected body in and to the world. We shall live with faith and with trust, with a sense of dangerous wonder and astonishment, a little bit fearful, with eyes and ears and hearts wide open to the surprising, the unpredictable, and the often divinely contradictory responses to our all too human thoughts of the way things ought to be, the way things have always been, open to how things could be and can be if we would only believe and live as those who do. When was the last time you were challenged by Jesus? When was the last time you were actually transformed by God's living and active Spirit, as opposed to being conformed to the comfortable and oppressive spirit of religious objectivity and certainty? When was the last time you were astonished, astounded by God's call on your life? When was the last time you responded to that call with dangerous wonder, with joyful abandon, throwing yourselves into following the one who is always God with us, as well as God just beyond our grasp? What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? We know who you are, the Holy One of God. So lead us and guide us as we transform ourselves into your faithful disciples, to be and become your body in and to the world. Help us to always remember that it is you and not us that is the head of the church. And to God alone be all the glory. Amen.